I don't really care about what you want in this country anymore, Muslims. I really don't. Go back to your country if that's how you want to live. Get the fuck out of here. So, we had the underwear bomber. We had the 7/7 bombings. We have September 11th. We have the Brussels attacks. We have so many more terrorist attacks, and then we have the 50 people dead at the nightclub. And my previous video was just, I didn't have much information. I didn't know the guy was Muslim. But now that I found out, I'm just outraged by this. And we have so many more terrorist attacks, and
some facts that Bill seems to love. When you hear them, it's going to blow your mind a bit because the way you're told stories doesn't incorporate this information. Did you know that only 2% of all terrorist attacks were committed by Islamic groups or individuals? Like, I can't get my head around that because I can't think what the other 98% are because I never hear those stories about Buddhist or Christian attacks.
So it's time for you Americans to start taking a stance, and fucking white people stop feeling guilty, because I'm getting to my limit here. I'm getting to my limit where I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of this political correctness because it's killing our country. And it's time for us to take a stand as a people. Time to be warriors. Time to call out the bullshit. Time to stand up. So it's time for you Americans to start taking a stance, and fucking white people stop feeling guilty, because I'm getting to my limit here.
David Sirota and Don Lemon were on CNN earlier this week talking about the shooting, specifically an interesting racial angle on these sorts of mass shootings. Let's listen to David Sirota.
Why is America 30% white guys, and 70% of the shootings in the last many decades have been at the hands of white guys? I'm not saying we should racially profile white guys, but I do think it's interesting to note that had 70% of mass shooters been, let's say, Arabs or African American men, I think the conversation right now would be a very different conversation, where we'd be having a much less nuanced, a much uglier conversation.
So it's time for you Americans to start taking a stance, and fucking white people stop feeling guilty.
What's interesting is the reaction that Sirota has gotten for saying that. It was met with a lot of awkwardness and like, I'm not sure that's the kind of thing you should be bringing up, and what are you trying to intimate about white people? No, but you heard him. He's not saying that. He's white. He doesn't believe you should actually racially profile white people. But he's saying if it was Arabs, as Ben pointed out on the first day and we talked about, of course there would be a mass hysteria over, oh my God, which Middle Eastern country do we invade? And terrorism run amok, double Guantanamo. I mean, there's no question about that. And if it was African Americans, you think they wouldn't use words like gangbangers and and all the racially coded words, etc. And then this gets into one of my pet peeves that I've been talking about a lot lately, which is this idea that David is alluding to there, which is well, if it was black folks, how blacks are violent. That's the stereotype, right? But how come that stereotype doesn't exist for white people who massacred the Native Americans in this country, who enslaved black people, who did lynchings, who did the Klan?
German's also white, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about broader white people, World War I, World War II, the Inquisition, the Crusades, and then the slaughter of the South American Native Americans.
The 100 Years War.
And the list goes on and on. But black people are violent.
And fucking white people stop feeling guilty.
I honestly don't even think you need to go as politically charged as talking about Muslims, or if it was African Americans. If it was Chinese men, if it was white women that had 4 mass shootings in a row, I think that would be major news too. Well, any group other than white males would be news.
Because I'm getting to my limit here. on Twitter, I have a friend named Ahmed that's exposing all of these Arab Muslims that feel happy about the Orlando shooting. It's so unbelievable. They feel happy about it. They're celebrating. They're saying gays are not in our nature. Being gay is not in your nature, so it's good that Allah disposed of them. Saying disgusting things like that, and that's the reality, man. We're dealing with a reality. If you want to import these people into our country, that's what you're going to have to fucking deal with. Two-faced motherfuckers that want the Sharia, that don't respect your laws.
Locally, a Sacramento Baptist preacher issued extreme and troubling comments in a videotaped sermon, actually praising the Orlando club attacks.
Hey, are you sad that 50 pedophiles were killed today? No, I think that's great.
And here's the good news and the bad news about this. The good news is that there's 50 less pedophiles in this world because, these homosexuals are a bunch of disgusting perverts and pedophiles.
And in the hadith, you have no choice. A homosexual is either burned alive or thrown off a rooftop.
The Bible does say that sodomites are to be put to death. That is what the Bible says in both the Old Testament. That's what it says in the New Testament. The Bible says it. Christianity says it. The church says it. Christendom says it. Of course, I don't believe in vigilantism.
We're tired of all the attacks. We're tired of all the discrimination from our end. That's what we're tired of. I don't really care about what you want in this country anymore, Muslims. I really don't. Go back to your country if that's how you want to live. Get the fuck out of here.
And the fact of the matter, we have said over and over again that the religion of Islam does not allow the killing of innocents, that one injustice does not allow another injustice. Allah Azza wa Jal explicitly says in the Quran that whoever kills an innocent soul, it is as if he has killed all of mankind. And dear brothers and sisters, no religion allows such evil to simply indiscriminately kill 50, 100 people in this manner. You don't have to be a religious person even to understand. The sad fact is that the very fact that we have to condemn is itself a sad reality. And this leads me to my second point. Once we have condemned, and once we have unequivocally said this is not a part of our religion, we now have to ask ourselves and ask the broader society, why should I even have to condemn when any other massacre and any other mass shooting is never condemned by the faith churches and the groups that are associated with those mass shooters? When Dylan Roof perpetrated his massacre and he killed 8 or 9 or 10 people in a church, and he did so in the name of his race, and he invoked a cause that he himself believed in. The very people that belonged to that race did not have to issue statements. The people that belonged to that civilization did not have to dissociate, because it was understood that a crazy man is a crazy man, even if he acts in the name of a race or a civilization or a religion. The church that Dylan Roof used to go to did not have to come on CNN and talk about, oh, what are they doing to counter radicalism? And the sad reality is that we are not being judged according to the same standards. We cannot even grieve with our fellow Americans, except that we have to as well condemn, and we have to become on the defensive that this is not a part of our civilization. And we have to ask the broader public, we have to be courageous enough to call a spade a spade. Why is it that anyone who goes crazy of another faith community is a lone wolf? Why is it that they have a mental issue, and yet for some reason everybody in our community never has any mental problems? This guy is a mental lunatic. There's no question about it. Something snapped in his head. He did what he did. A sane person does not do this. And if you read what we know, of course he's still premature, but there seems to be personal issues. He's gone through a divorce, his wife has left him, etc., etc. Clearly there are issues going on. There are mental issues. Every single time a mass shooting takes place from the broader public, and of course the stereotypical mass shooter, as we know, is a Caucasian male Christian. Every time this happens, wallahi, within a few hours, we begin to hear about what happened in his childhood. Went through a severe divorce, the parents had this, he got involved in this. You find some type of excuse to blame other than broader culture, other than the society itself. Yet for some reason, when a Muslim goes mental, it has to be the religion of Islam. Wallahi, we are tired. We are tired of these double standards, and somebody's got to stand up and call a spade a spade. We also have crazy people like you do. We also have lunatics like you do. Why is it that every time one of us does something, he becomes a representative and an ambassador of the entire 1.6 billion Muslims? We have to point this out and say with every single ounce of courage and strength that we have, enough is enough. I represent myself. He doesn't represent me. Mainstream Muslims are represented in the masajid. We represent Islam over here. Every masjid in North America is packed with people praying. What was this guy doing at a bar? What was this guy doing at a location in the nights of Ramadan that none of us are going to? He did not even go to the masjid. His wife said, his wife left him. His ex-wife said he wasn't even religious. He used to drink whatnot, has nothing to do with the deen. Yet just because his name is a pseudo-Islamic name, all of a sudden he represents all of us. Brothers and sisters, we don't have to apologize for something we didn't commit. It's not my responsibility to apologize. I condemn like I condemn every massacre. But we don't have to apologize for something that we did not cause.